some growth that you can get naturally and over time, that you don't have to do anything to initiate, that is just natural. But there's certain levels of growth where it's necessary for you to force it. Top of it, team Coach E, and it's time to leverage your life. And if you didn't know, your life is your business. And if you're not living the life that you desire and deserve, it may be because you're not minding your business. And if you're not minding your business, it's possibly because you do not know what your business is, and that's okay. You in the right place. Now, I'm gonna say two names, and these two names for those 80s babies should ring a bell. But for those who younger, I'm gonna explain. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger and then you got Lou Ferrigno. Now, growing up, if you were a kid watching TV a lot and watching people who were strong and muscular and alpha male type characters, these two people stood out. Arnold Schwarzenegger was probably like the most muscular person on TV at the time when I was growing up, and then you had Lou Ferrigno who played the original Hulk, and these guys were built. Now, outside of them, you would watch wrestling, and you had people like the Ultimate Warrior and other people who just had these crazy physiques. And as a kid, I was always fascinated by bodybuilding. As I got older, I got to study and got to find out more and more about different legendary boxers. The Ronnie Colemans. All the guys who won multiple Olympias. And then I start to study and go deeper, and I start to find out about guys like Sergio Olivia and Robbie Robertson, and then I stumbled on this guy named Mike Mintz. Now, the thing that separated him is he's nicknamed the Professor. And he's nicknamed the Professor because he developed a whole philosophy behind bodybuilding and behind training. Now, he's one of the people who are considered the forefathers or the founding fathers of HIT training, which is high intensity training. And he's also called Mr. Heavy Duty. Now, let me explain. High intensity training is a training to where you go for short periods of time, but you do very intense workouts. And it's based on the understanding in personal training that there's a ratio of intensity to duration. So if you heighten the intensity, the duration has to decrease. If you increase the duration, the intensity has to increase. So it's kind of like a teeter totter. They can't never be at equal intensity and equal duration, because at a certain point your body runs out of energy, and now you're not getting any benefits. You're actually reversing the benefits. Your muscles start to be used to power yourself through the workout versus being built. So the high intensity training was about short periods of workouts and high intense. Now, where the heavy duty part comes in is that he will lift heavy and he will push himself to failure. I want you to remember that, to push heavy and to failure. And so he will work out for short periods of time, like 30 minutes. He will lift heavy. He will go to failure. He wouldn't do a lot of reps, and it'll be a very intense workout with short breaks for that period. Now, this method wasn't popular because most people that worked out wanted to be in the gym 2 hours and hours. And the reason why was because their concept of bodybuilding was the longer I work out, the more I'm building my muscles. Now, I'm going to get to a point here. Just stay with me. So that concept was actually incorrect. See, what Mike Mintz knew was that the time period of working out wasn't the time for muscles to grow. It was the time to stimulate growth. It was the time to signal to the muscles that I needed you to grow. I needed you to grow because I needed you to adapt to the stress that I'm putting on you. Hence, he had heavy loads and pushed them to failure, because he wanted the muscles to know that, look, I need you to strengthen yourselves to be able to handle this load. So where was the growth happening? The growth happens in the period of rest and repair. Now, when your muscles are resting, when you're sleeping, and after your workout, when you putting fuel into your body to replace the energy that you lost, this is the time when the muscles grow. And we know this because we know that when we're working out, we're tearing the muscles, and when we're resting, the muscles are healing, but they're healing back stronger. So what his concept was instead of working out to grow your muscles, you work out to stimulate growth, and you want to stimulate the most growth. And so in the rest and repair time, that's when you're going to get the optimal growth, and you're going to start coming back and seeing yourself come back stronger. And you're going to see yourself come back being able to lift heavier loads, and your body is starting to respond to the training better. Now, this is something that Mike Mintz mastered. He also has the whole program of heavy duty and still to hit training. And the reason why I brought that up, because there is a similarity in that type of training and in your life and in your business. See, there's some growth that you can get naturally and over time, that you don't have to do anything to initiate, that is just natural. But there's certain levels of growth where it's necessary for you to force it, or you to push or initiate it. And in business, when you want to go from a 6 figure business to a 7 figure business or more, you have to initiate that growth. You have to force that growth. When you want to grow as a human being, to be a better person, you have to initiate that growth. You have to force that growth. And let me tell you why. Your muscles don't grow working and doing things in your everyday life. While you going to work and you going home, dealing with your kids and all the things, you don't see any growth in your muscles. Why? Because your muscles don't need to grow. There's no necessity for them to grow, because there's no load that they have to adapt to carry. So in your everyday life, you don't do anything to make your muscles become forced to grow, so they don't grow. They just maintain to handle the load that you're used to. Well, in bodybuilding, you're forcing your muscles to carry an unordinary level of stress, or take an unordinary level of stress. And because of that, your body says, I have to adapt to this situation. So you're forcing growth by putting yourself in positions where you have to adapt to higher levels of stress that you're not used to. And that's the same thing that happens in business and personal life when you want to grow, and when you want to grow extremely, and when you want to be extraordinary. Now, if you want to be average, you don't force growth. You don't do anything to increase your load. You don't do anything to make your load heavier. You just keep dealing with the same things that you always deal with. And you'll stay right where you are. Might even go backwards. But if you want to grow as a person, if you want to grow in your business, you have to learn how to initiate growth. And sometimes you have to force growth. And one of the ways to do that is similar to bodybuilding. Now, remember, in his method, you had to increase the load and push to failure. And it's funny how he says push to failure, and how they say in the entrepreneur world that you have to fail and fail and fail, but you have to fail forward. Well, it's because when you push yourself to failure, now you're creating a new limit, a new goalpost. You're pushing yourself past what you can do. I heard Ed Millett, and I'm sorry if I murdered his name, but Ed Millett say that the power of one more. Whenever he's working out and he gets to his maximum rep, then he always does one more set. See, because mentally, when you go in and you say, okay, I'm going to do 10, your body and your mind is already ready for that 10. And when you get to 10, you go into relax mode. But then when you do that one more, you're pushing yourself outside of what you are used to. And then that one more could turn to two more, and that two more could turn to three more. And you're constantly pushing the goalposts farther and farther out. And you want to do that with life, because you never want to arrive. The journey is where you arrive at, not the destination. So you want to constantly be moving that goalpost. So again, in order to do that, you have to push yourself to failure. You have to push yourself to failure in your personal life. You have to push yourself to failure in your business. Well, how do I push myself to failure in my personal life or my business? You have to put yourself, as we've been hearing all this time from all the gurus, in uncomfortable spaces where you are going to collapse at, where you're going to start freaking out, having panic attacks, and having anxieties. You have to push yourself into it, just like when you're lifting weights. If you ever lift heavy weights, when you get to that last rep that you know you can't do and you got a spotter, something triggers in your mind. That trigger is panic. Why? Because you have a system that's constantly regulating your body. And that fight or flight system kicks in and says, hey, 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 we can't do this. It's time to stop. Retreat, retreat. Something's going to go wrong. But you're telling yourself, no, push this weight, get this last rep in, get it up. You got the spotter right there. You can do it. Push this last weight. And you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And that's the same thing you must do when you're growing. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable spaces, spaces that make you panic, have anxiety, have stress, and you have to learn how to deal with it. You have to learn how to control it and not let it control you. Now, that's personal growth, and it also goes into business growth. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable spaces with your business. I said in a speaking or in a speech a while ago that You should look for problems and not avoid them as a business. Why? Because problems have to be seen as opportunities for growth. So you grow in your business by looking to solve problems. You grow as a person by putting yourself in uncomfortable spaces. This is the extra load, the uncomfortable space, the problems. That's the extra load that you're putting on yourself beyond what you typically can do. And when you push yourself, just like in bodybuilding, to push that heavier load, you don't have to do it for long periods of time. Just expose yourself, expose your mind, expose your body the same way you expose your body in bodybuilding to this heavier load, to this more stress. And what's going to happen is you're going to fight or flight. You have to adapt. If you want that next level experience, you're going to force your body to adapt. You're going to strengthen that entrepreneurial muscle and you're going to adapt. You're going to tear it down and then you're going to grow. But it's only going to happen if you put that extra level of stress on yourself. If you force the growth, or I should say, stimulate the growth, signal your body to do more than what it's used to, or to do more than what you're accustomed to. So just like in bodybuilding, if you want to grow, we're going to use the Mike Mintz process. We're going to use the HIT training process. We're going to use the heavy duty process. And we're going to understand that growth happens not by basically taking yourself and growing yourself, but stimulating growth indirectly by putting a heavier load on yourself, by forcing yourself into uncomfortable spaces, by looking to solve problems instead of looking to avoid problems, so that you can get that muscle more stronger and force it to adapt to a higher level of stress and then become stronger and constantly push that goalpost farther and farther out until there is no limit, until you always going outside of your limit, until you always are doing the extraordinary. Push it to failure. That's how real growth happens. That's how real growth comes. You have to stimulate it. You have to do things to signal to your body indirectly that I need and demand more of you, and your body will respond.